Hello and welcome back to Tinker Talks Guns. Today we're going to be talking about the Protector 25 Auto. This is a product of Eibar, Spain, which was a major center of small firearms producers prior to World War II, and a lot of what they produced were inexpensive pistols for the self-defense market, specifically aimed at working class people of Western Europe and the rest of the world. And these could vary wildly in quality. Now, there's no slam on Eibar, Spain. Some very fine guns were produced there. In fact, in World War I, they supplied revolvers to many British officers that served quite well. And I have seen some of these revolvers, and they're pretty much as good as anything made anywhere. But what Eibar was famous for was inexpensive pistols. And this represents that breed. Let's have a look at it on the tabletop because it's really small. Okay, first things first, we'll unload and show clear. There is a surprisingly prominent heel-type magazine release, which works great. The magazine holds 6 rounds, and the chamber is empty. Now, this is a simple striker-fired pistol with a manual safety, forward for safe, back for fire. It does not have a magazine interrupt, and that's one of many things the gun does not have. Now, you might notice a certain resemblance to a Colt vest pocket model, and I doubt that that's accidental. I don't think, despite some differences, like the safety being moved from the rear to the front and the lack of a grip safety, I don't think using the term knockoff would be entirely unfair. But it is a very simple, straight blowback, striker-fired gun, and it's quite functional. The trigger is interesting because while the handy-dandy Lyman trigger gauge says it breaks at 7 pounds, it feels a lot lighter than that. And frankly, I don't notice it feeling particularly heavy when firing it. Also, the reset is very short, making it pretty easy to shoot this gun rapidly with decent accuracy, despite the sight. Note the use of the term sight singular, because all it is a groove in the top of the gun. There is no particular sights at all other than that. But at 5 yards, that proved to be quite adequate. So, not really going to knock it on that. Now, disassembly is Colt-like, even though the safety/disassembly lever has been moved to the front from the back. And in this example, it's worn enough that I have to hold it up. And to disassemble it, you simply rotate the barrel until it comes loose, because there are lugs cut in the bottom of the barrel that match lugs cut into the frame to hold it in place. As you can see, there's also a full-length steel guide rod. Now, I'm not going to disassemble this because it's inclined to be a pain about it, but basically it comes apart exactly like a Colt, and once you have done so, pretty much looks exactly like a Colt. This is worn enough, as I said, that it doesn't hold the slide open properly. Now, you will note, watch the end of the guide rod, that it moves when I take the safety on or off, and that's because this safety is, the spring tension on the safety comes from the mainspring, and essentially it's as if somebody took a Colt and said, how can I make this less expensively, and made the appropriate changes. Fit and finish is not awesome. It's that loose, and despite that, it's really not that bad. Of course, it does not have as much attention paid to the fit and finish as a more expensive gun like the Colt, but it's not awful. And for markings, it just says automatic pistol, 6.35 millimeter. And underneath, rather worn, almost to the point of illegibility, it says protector. There are no other markings on the metal of the gun, although, as you can see, the grip panels, which seem to be something like some kind of plastic, it says caliber 6.35. And I suspect that somebody made a lot of these grips and a number of the Eibar manufacturers used them, because I've seen them on a fair number of their pistols. I will note that when you disassemble this and tension is removed from the safety, it can be very easily just pulled right out, or will in fact fall out if you're not being careful. So, a very simple gun, but fit to purpose. It is quite small, as you can see. It is 4.5 inches long, and if you include the somewhat oversized heel magazine release, about 3.25 inches tall. So very compact, very easy to put in a pocket of a pants or coat or what have you, or a purse, and quite affordable. So, the Protector. The workshops of Eibar, Spain, prior to World War II, produced vast numbers of mostly inexpensive pistols. Eventually, they consolidated under the umbrella of several companies whose names we now know, and who are now defunct, thanks to the Spanish government. But pistols like this, and they were made in a wide variety. Some of them were very close knockoffs of Colt 1908s. Some of them, like this one, were rationalized for less expensive production. And some of them are hammer-fired, but most of the guns were based on the efforts of larger, better-known companies. And these guns were primarily marketed to the working poor of Western Europe and the United States and South America. And they vary a great deal in quality. I've seen some of the revolvers from there that are as good as anything I've seen from anywhere. I've also seen knockoffs of Smith & Wessons that I would hesitate to fire even with mild modern factory ammunition. And some guns of this stripe. But this is a very simple gun, and while it is no exemplar of fit and finish, it functioned perfectly for about 100 rounds, with the exception of a single round of some 32 grain reloads that don't actually work well in any of my 25s, so I'm not going to ding the gun on that. And it was quite easy to put a lot of rounds on targets in a hurry, even as far away as 5 yards. And 25 ACP ain't much, but you put a half dozen of them in someone's face and they're liable to reconsider their life choices. Since the GCA 68, guns like this could no longer be imported because poor people could afford them, and we didn't want that. And that was pretty much the end of this segment of the industry. There were a few workarounds, but for the most part, guns of this stripe by the makers of Eibar and their successors could no longer be imported. But for all that it is inexpensively made, shall we say, it's a perfectly functional gun, and if you don't have something else, would be better than throwing rocks. Make of that what you will. Anyway, great gun, bought on the cheap, works fine, and it's a piece of history. And it's not only a piece of history because it was an everyman's gun, and we all know I like those, but because this also has a connection to a well-regarded gun that I like very well indeed. The F. Dusac and later the CZ Duo 25 Auto, which shares a lot of common features with this, although it is a significantly better made product. And the reason for this is that originally F. Dusac imported large numbers of these from Spain and sold them to the working poor of Europe, and eventually was spurred to decide to go into production of his own gun, which, while it doesn't appear exactly like this one, is very, very definitely related to it on a mechanical level. In fact, the magazine from this gun will fit and cycle in my F-Dusek Duo, and vice versa. And either one of them, I suspect, would work in a Colt 1908. So, standardization, what a wonderful thing. Anyway, interesting gun, surprisingly fun to shoot, surprisingly easy to shoot accurately, and gotten for not much money. Maybe my standards are too low, but I think that's really cool. Anyway, if you like the video, please hit like and subscribe. Leaving comments in the comment section helps, because these are the only ways YouTube actually notices I exist and shows people my videos. If you wish to offer more material support, there's a link to my Patreon account in the description below. So I hope this finds you well. Stay safe, take care, and we'll talk to you again real soon.